So let's get right into it. Astroworld 2021, the madness, the mayhem. Unless you've been under the rock or you have not been on social media, it has just been pure insanity. So over the last 48 hours, there have been a slew of videos that have been uploaded to TikTok, to Instagram, which show different perspectives of what actually went down. We're going to show you some of those on the show in just a second, but it just looks like insanity. And so at this point, it really appears that Travis is going to take a big hit on this. And so if we're looking at the trajectory of how this thing is going to play out, we actually do have a parallel that we can draw some type of insight from. And so unless you've been under a rock, you're familiar with a guy named Sean Diddy Combs, right? And so Sean Diddy Combs wasn't always Diddy. He actually was Puffy before he was Diddy. And so in 1991, Puffy actually put together this huge event, which was supposed to be the event of all events that went down at City College in New York. All right. And so the event was supposed to feature Heavy D. LL Cool J showed up. Mike Tyson was even in the building. And basically, the way this event was set up was, I believe there was maybe 66 security guards that were on site. Now, there were 2,700 seats or tickets that were able to be sold, but this event was oversold by 5,000 tickets, I believe, right? And so what ended up happening was the event, you had to go through like the stairwell. And so there was this madness that ensued, which is very similar to how it all played out in the Travis Scott situation, where basically people were trying to get down the stairwell and they all pushed up against this glass that was at the end of the stairwell, which allowed you to gain access to the event. And so you had 8 people, which is an eerie parallel to Travis's event, that were suffocated or died. And so this was a big stain. It was a big deal in the early 90s when this happened. It was an all-around tragedy. You had young kids, high school kids, I think even a pregnant lady that were victims at this particular event. But in the long run, it took years and years for it to be litigated out in court. And so I think the timeline that we're looking at a lot of outrage right now, and there's going to be a lot of outrage directed at the promoters and at Travis. But this thing is going to be a long stretch. Now, at the end of the day, Puffy, Diddy, Sean Combs, he ended up settling with pretty much every single family, but it took years and years for that whole thing to play out. And I think we're going to see the same thing happen within this whole Travis Scott scenario. So right now we're just gonna go to some footage. This footage here is provided by K Houston, Channel 11, whatever. All right, so we're gonna roll the footage just so you can get an idea of what we're talking about. This is earlier in the day where fans were just getting in and they were breaking through the barricades. So take a look. So that looks like madness. That looks like, whoa, what is actually going on? I've seen stuff like that happen earlier in the day in festivals. And so looking at that, a lot of people will be like, oh, this is crazy. Like, what were they thinking that early in the day? But a lot of times you can regroup, you can get everything back together from that point, and then that just ends up being a hiccup in the day. And so I think when the promoters of the event were doing this, I don't think that was a big trigger for them because, of course, they could have made arrangements for the next day to update how security was going to let individuals in. And so I think that part of the video won't be as damning. However, as we go in and as we see some footage of how many people and how crazy it was, I think that's going to be some of the most, sought after video, because we got to really see what happened. It seemed like there was just a rush of people who were pushing towards the stands. Some people are saying that Travis Scott instigated this. Other people are saying that, this just happened all of a sudden. People are also saying that, there was There were needles being stuck in people's bags, and there was chaos. And so at this point, we don't know how it all started. However, we do have some video that shows us directly within the event how everything was going down. And so let's take a look at that right now. So as you can see, that video shows that it's just super packed. You can't move. If you ever been at an event like that, once you are in that, you are in it. There's no way to get out. Is basically every person for theirself at that point. So right now, the details are still spilling out, but it looks like there was just a wave of people. How that started, I think, is going to be key. And if, once litigation takes place, if they decide whether Travis Scott was responsible, whether Live Nation has any blame, whether the promoters have any blame, whether anybody who was involved in the festival has any blame. Because if it was a situation where maybe there is some chaotic thing that takes place that then causes that's a lot different from reports of, Travis Scott telling people to rest the stage, which I haven't seen video evidence of that, so I can't really speak to it. But that is going to be the cusp of this, and that's going to be how it goes down in terms of figuring out who's responsible for what. This is going to be something that plays out for the next 5, 10, maybe even 15 years down the line. We're going to see a lot of these attendees still settling out. Now, the difference from this and the city college tragedy that Puffy was associated with is that there was 50,000 plus in attendance, right? That's a lot different from 5,000, right? So the Puffy event, the City College event, which featured Heavy D, that had only 5,000 people, and there was 8 deaths that came from that. This had 50,000. Now, right now, the number of injuries is just going up and up and up and up and up. There may be even a case where if you were in attendance, now you are traumatized because what you saw. So the sheer number of individuals who are involved in this makes it slightly different, but there's still parallels to the original City College event. So I'm interested to see how this plays out. Of course, prayers go out to all the victims. Of course, on the business side of things, I don't know how it looks for the promoters. I don't know how it looks for Travis Scott. Right now, they're going to have to really tackle this head on, and it is going to be a legal tsunami. When I say that, you have so many lawsuits that are about to come. You've already had literally, a bunch of people attaching themselves to these lawsuits. Famed Houston attorney Tony Busby, he is already on the lawsuit trail. He's already put his feelers out for individuals that were there who want to, tell their story, who want to be compensated. So this is going to be a legal nightmare, and I think we just got to see how it plays out. On the up and up for Travis Scott, Puffy was able to bounce back to the successful mogul that we know today. Of course, this is one of the things that still to this day, Diddy shows a lot of remorse for. It's one of the stains on his career that happened. He was pretty much around, he's a younger guy than Travis. So I think there's an ability to bounce back, but that's not going to happen until compensation takes place for those families. And then, of course, the amount of time passes. It's been 30 years since the City College tragedy, and it's pretty much almost was 30 years to the day. And so I think that's something that you got to look at, the parallels there. But this is the Kevin Jack Show. You already know. If you think you heard it all, you don't know Jack. And we are out.
Yeah, the Kevin Jack Show.